Queen Hatshepsut's temple in Deir El Bahari. 500 years before Queen Hatshepsut came to power, in the bosom of a tall mountain in western Thebes, she gave the order to have a temple built to commemorate her, north of the tomb containing the funeral temple, built by King Mentuhotep Nebudra of the 11th dynasty. Senenmut, an engineer, supervised the building of the Hatshepsut Temple and was influenced by the tiara system he observed at King Mentuhotep Nebudra's temple. He constructed it on 3 large levels, one above the other, that resembled terraces. He left out the pyramid shape, or obelisk, and the burial chamber, but he added shrines for worship and the performance of rites for each of the gods Amun-Re, Re-Orakti, Anubis, and the goddess Hathor. The main purpose of the Hatshepsut Temple was to worship the biggest god, Amun-Re, the god of Thebes. It was not utilized for rituals that benefited Queen Hatshepsut, her father, King Thutmose I, and his second wife, Queen Emos. Along with the god Anubis, the god of the dead, and the goddess Hathor, Lady of the West, who is frequently depicted in accordance with the Egyptian context in which she is worshipped, shrines were also constructed for the gods Re and Horakidi, the god of Heliopolis, whose worship required that his sacred rituals be held on an altar exposed to the sunlight, which it was built facing the sun. She is represented as emerging from either a thicket of papyrus or a rocky cave. In contrast to the custom of building memory temples, which uses yellow sandstone quarried from Mount Silsila, south of Edfu, excellent limestone was utilized in the construction of this temple, which constructed in the 8th or 9th year of Queen Hatshepsut's reign. The Hatshepsut Temple provides a vivid image of the ways in which political and religious hatred manifests itself. We can plainly observe the political animosity between Queen Hatshepsut and Thutmose III, who was removed from the Egyptian monarchy because of his youth by force of her might and charisma. This explains why his vindictive rage is visible in every one of Queen Hatshepsut's monuments. His supporters distorted her likenesses, removed the majority of her names, and destroyed her statues. All of this is plainly visible on the temple's walls. Regarding religious hatred, it was evident during the reign of King Akhenaten. His supporters erased the names of the god Amun and distorted representations of him as part of their religious revolution against the god and his priests. Then King Ramesses II ordered the restoration of some of the distorted scenes and texts of this temple, thus immortalizing his name on it, even though the restoration he carried out was considered to be of lesser quality than the artistic works carried out during the 18th dynasty. Then King Merneptah also added his own name to some parts of the temple. This temple was known as the Holy of Holies of Amun during Queen Hatshepsut's reign. The name was abbreviated and became the holy place during the Ramesside era. About the name Deir El Bahari, it is a contemporary Arabic name that was applied to this region in the 7th century AD, following the use of this temple by the Copts as a monastery. The Valley Temple. This temple was totally destroyed, and from it emerged the path that ascended. This path was identified by the statues of Queen Hatshepsut in the shape of the Sphinx that stood on either side of it. The path led to the temple's entrance, which was also destroyed. From there, we reached the first level, which took up a large open courtyard surrounded by a low limestone wall with a rounded top. In this courtyard, there were several trees, possibly including myrrh trees that the queen had brought from the country of Punt. Then there were 2 water basins, where the papyrus plants were probably growing, each shaped like the letter T in a horizontal orientation facing one another. There are 2 colonnades on the western side of this courtyard. The front side of the second terrace is supported by the back walls of these colonnades, which have Egyptian cornices on their facades. Each colonnade's roof is supported by 22 columns arranged in 2 rows. The first row's columns have a unique style. The front half is shaped like a square column, while the rear half has the shape of a 16-sided column. The name of the queen crowned with the falcon god Horus adorns each column. On the right side of the right colonnade is a 7-meter-tall Osirian-shaped statue of Queen Hatshepsut, and the left colonnade has a corresponding figure. Regarding the inscriptions, the most of the scenes from the colonnade on the northern, right, side were destroyed, leaving only ruins, a scene depicting waterfowl hunters using nets. The scene depicted in the southern, left, corner, which shows the journey of two great obelisks, from Aswan to the Karnak temples, across the Nile on a barge towed by other large ships, is the most significant scene of the southern, left, colonnade. Under the scene is a group of soldiers carrying flags to celebrate the consecration of the two obelisks. To get to the second level and the second terrace, we climb the stairs in the center of the rising causeway or ramp that divides the two colonnades. This causeway or ramp is about 10 meters wide, and two low limestone walls with rounded tops surrounded on both the right and left. Every wall has a lovely bas-relief towards the inner that depicts a lion defending the queen and, thus, the entrance to the second terrace. This particular detail distinguished each wall at its lower beginning. Two colonnades with an Egyptian cornice decorating their facades can be found at the end of the second floor. Each colonnade's roof is supported by 22 columns arranged in two rows. The northern, right, colonnade contains scenes of the sacred birth of Queen Hatshepsut, and the southern, left, colonnade contains scenes of the famous Punt expedition. Now that we've arrived at the southern, left, colonnade, we can see scenes from the famous Punt expedition, which took place in what is most likely now Somalia. Under the command of Commander Nasi, 5 large ships full of fine Egyptian goods set off on a long voyage from a Red Sea port close to Wadi Jajus. Then it returned bearing the riches of the land, ivory, gold, cattle, incense trees, and myrrh trees. The voyage scenes start at the colonnade's southern corner, left, with the lower register on the western wall, which depicts in text and images the Egyptian expedition sailing to Punt, sailing on the sea, beginning the good road to the land of God, and traveling in peace to Punt with the armies of the Lord of the two lands, in accordance with the order of the Lord of the gods, Amun, the Lord of the thrones of the two lands, in front of the Karnak temples. Amun, the Lord of the gods, commands that wonders be brought for him from every foreign country because he loves his son Motgari, Queen Hatshepsut's coronation name. The arrival of the royal envoy, to the land of God, accompanied by the army behind him, in front of the great Punt rulers is depicted in the lower register of the southern, left, wall. He is bringing all the beautiful items from the palaces to the goddess Hathor, Lady of Punt, in order to grant her life and prosperity, as well as her majesty's well-being. In the scene, the Egyptian envoy is shown standing with his soldiers behind him. In front of him is a table with a variety of beautiful gifts, such as beaded necklaces, bracelets, an axe, and a dagger. The leader of Punt, Barho, is facing him. His wife, Eti, with her plump figure, and 2 of his sons and a daughter followed him. The donkey which the wife will ride is shown next, with a funny caption above image that says, "Is donkey carrying his wife?" The next scene shows a few members of the Punt people in front of their village and their homes, which are represented as huts built on supports and ascended to by ladders, and there are animals grazing in between them. The people of Punt are described in the writings above as being amazed by the bravery of the Egyptian sailors and asking, "How did you get here? That people are not knowing of in this country. Did you come from the sky? Or did you navigate by boat?" Above this scene, we can see the tent that the Egyptians had set up to welcome the greats of Punt. According to the palace's instructions, they brought them bread, beer, wine, meat, fruits, and everything from Egypt to greet them. The Egyptian envoy is shown in front of the tent in this scene, with a pile of incense placed in front of him and presented to him by the leader of Punt, who came with his wife, who attracted attention with her plump figure, and one of her followers who was carrying gifts. The scenes in the upper 2 registers show Egyptian soldiers transporting incense trees with their roots in clay baskets. The scenes are divided by a waterway and depict different Red Sea fish scenes. These scenes demonstrate the Egyptian artist's intelligence, accuracy, and ability to capture and record the environment in landscapes. Continuing, we view the scenes on the western wall from the 2nd register next to the southern, left, wall. Next, we see a scene of the large ships being shipped with the wonders of Punt, in which we notice the men walking on the scaffolding and carrying the various trees into the ships, followed by the scene of 3 ships with their sails spread out, ready to sail to Egypt. Above it is a text that mentions sailing and arriving safely at the Karnak temples. Next, we witness a scene in which the people of Put, who bow their heads in respectful greeting, arrive and offer gifts to the Egyptians. Subsequently, scenes depicting the destroyed image of Queen and her soul, Ka, present the bounties of Put to the god Amun in 2 rows. These bounties include incense trees and a variety of animals, such as leopards, their skins, giraffes, and cattle. Then, bows and gold are displayed, and the goddess Shet weighs the riches and bounties that are offered to both the gods Horus and Didon. There are also scenes of burning incense. Lastly, there are scenes showing the god Jehudi recording incense. Furthermore, we witness King Thutmose III censing, the latter has been removed during King Akhenaten's reign, in front of the priests who carry Amun boat. A scene of Queen Hatshepsut before the deity Amun has been removed and is visible at the end of the western wall. The queen is shown speaking to 3 top statesmen while seated on her throne in the scene on the colonnade's northern, right, wall. Although the scene accompanying this text is completely distorted, it mentions the year 9 as the expedition's return to Thebes. Hatshepsut ends her speech to the god Amun by stating, "I have Punt immortalized inside his house, and I have planted the trees of God's land in his garden, next to his temple, according to his order." The goddess Hathor's temple. The goddess Hathor's temple is situated to the south, left, of the Punt expedition colonnade. Its design is different from that of the god Anubis shrine, which is situated close to the colonnade of birth on the northern, right, side. The temple of the goddess Hathor is characterized by the delicate scenes and stunning colors, the majority of which depict the goddess Hathor as a cow with both Hatshepsut and Thutmose III. The temple is divided into 2 sections. The first is built up mostly, while the remaining portion is completely carved out of the rock. The facade of the first section features 4 columns and 2 halls. The head of Hathor, the goddess with the face of a woman and the horns of a cow, crowns the opposing sides of the 2 center columns. The first hall has 2 rows of columns with 4 16-sided columns surrounding the 2 columns with Hathoric capitals in the center of each row. The image of the cow Hathor licking the queen's hand, followed by the god Anubis and a scene of the cow Hathor nursing Queen Hatshepsut in her naos, is one of the most significant images of the first hall. It is engraved on the northern, right, wall. 2 small walls on the right and left divide the 2 halls, and a row of 4 16-sided columns stands between them. The second hall, which had 12 columns arranged in 2 rows, is reached after that. The scene that is engraved on the northern wall is among the most significant ones in the second hall. We find the Hathor procession, which consists of a number of boats with cabins and depicting scenes of soldiers from Libya, men, and dancers. In front of the goddess Hathor, there is a scene showing Thutmose III performing a ritual dance while holding a paddle. Additionally, we observe a scene of the queen who was eventually usurped by Thutmose III holding the paddle and rudder in front of the goddess Hathor on the western wall. This is on top of the classic scenes that show the queen in her different associations with the goddess Hathor. The portion carved into the rock is accessed by a short staircase. It is a hall with 2 16-sided columns and 4 doors that lead to 4 tiny chapels. Its blue ceiling, decorated with stars, is meant to resemble the sky. The majority of the distorted scenes in this hall show either Thutmose III or Hatshepsut making sacrifices to the goddess Hathor. The hypostyle hall's western wall has an entrance in the center. From there, we enter a long, column-free hall with 2 niches on each side, that leads to the Holy of Holies with a vaulted ceiling, which has a niche on each side. The image of the goddess Hathor emerging from her naos as a cow is one of the most beautiful scenes in the Holy of Holies. The holy birth scenes are located in the northern, right, colonnade, which is where we will now go. Some people think that one of the main motivations behind the construction of this temple was the sacred birth scenes. It is known that the primary purpose of its founding was to honor the god Amun, who was accompanied in adoration by the gods Rehorakti, Anubis, and the goddess Hathor. The second purpose of this enormous structure is to serve as a temple honoring her parents and her own memories. The third and last reason is to inscribe on its walls the myth of her hallowed birth and demonstrate that her father is not King Thutmose I, but the god Amun following her usurpation of the kingship from boy or young Thutmose III. Because of this, Hatshepsut did everything she could to establish her reign and use this temple as a publicity tool for her claim to the throne. She recorded on the walls of the temple that the god Amun had commanded her to be crowned king. Hatshepsut assumed the role of Horus, the god, and became the queen of Egypt, representing him on earth. She adopted the title Son of the Sun, God, for herself and even dressed like men to mimic their appearance. She also made use of the monarch's borrowed regal beard. All of this was among the factors that led Thutmose III to exact his revenge on Hatshepsut's monuments upon her death or removal. Her monuments were destroyed, her names were taken out, and her image was distorted by his followers. Then followed the theological revolution of Akhenaten, whose believers erased the name of the deity Amun and distorted his many representations wherever they could. It seems sense that the majority of the religious and familial scenes in the temple were distorted as a result of political unrest or different religious views. We now go back to view the colonnade scenes on the northern, right, side. Although the majority of the upper scenes on its walls have been destroyed, they can still be traced with some difficulty. These scenes depict Queen Hatshepsut's coronation. On the upper portion of the southern wall, left, we see Queen Hatshepsut, completely removed, in the midst of both the gods Amun and Rehorakti, who are purifying her. A second scene shows the god Amun sitting and presenting the infant Hatshepsut to the gods of the south and the gods of the north. The gathering of gods and goddesses is finally depicted on the wall. They are arranged in 2 rows in front of Amun-Re, the king of the gods. On the upper row are arranged Osiris, his wife Isis, and their son Horus, followed by gods Nephthys, Set, then Hathor. The remaining gods of the assembly, Mentu, Betum, Shu, Tepnet, Geb, and Nut, are shown in the lower row. Moving to the western wall, we now follow the upper scenes, first from the south, left, to the north, right. In the center of these scenes is Queen Hatshepsut, removed, placed between 2 goddesses, Hathor, on the left, facing the god Atum, lord of Heliopolis, and the goddess Shit, on the right, behind him, giving upon her the years of eternity. Next, we see Hatshepsut crowned before the throned god Amun, imitating the look of men. In the center of them is a figure that has been completely removed and may be the priest Ionmudef. There are 3 rows behind Hatshepsut, with 3 figures in each row representing the gods' souls. The gods of the southern shrine of Nekhen are depicted on the top register with human bodies and jackal heads. The middle register represents the souls of Buto, the gods of the northern shrine, who are depicted with human bodies and the heads of hawks. The lower register represents the souls of gods, and behind the 3 registers sat the goddess Shit and the god Jehuti. Both recorded the queen's coronation ceremonies on the special board. Following that, 9 prominent politicians, arranged in 3 rows, witnessed the coronation of Queen Hatshepsut by Thutmose I. At the eastern wall's end, we witness the queen being led by the priest Ionmudef to be purified in the hallowed chamber Birwur, where she is purified by one of the gods using a vase shaped like the life sign Ankh. The bottom scenes on the western wall depict Queen Hatshepsut's sacred birth and are also arranged from south to north, left to right. Alongside the god Amun is Jehuti. Then the god Jehuti brings Amun, both of whom are nearly fully disfigured, to the mother of Hatshepsut, Queen Amos's bedroom to sleep with her. The Egyptian artist was able to capture this relationship with the utmost tenderness, beauty, and sanctity. He represented Amun's lying down with Queen Amos as he was seated in front of her, offering her the Ankh sign of life with one hand to her nose. This could imply that he is giving her the breath of life and presenting with his other hand the signs Ankh and Was, which stand for wishing her life and prosperity. Amun and Queen Amos were seated on the pet sign of the sky. This could mean that they were carried across the sky on the palms of two goddesses who were seated on a lion-headed bed. After that, the god Amun then gives the god Num the command to shape Hatshepsut and her soul, Ka, on the potter's wheel. The child Hatshepsut and her spirit were then given the sign of life, i.e. the breath of life, by the frog-headed goddess Heket. Subsequently, the deity Jehudi notifies Queen Amos that she is going to give birth, and finally, the god Num and the goddess Heket guide the soon-to-be mother and who is about to deliver her baby, to the delivery chamber. Observe the intended height of the abdomen as proof of the imminent birth. Sacred birth scenes are shown on the northern row, right, of the western wall of the birth colonnade. We see the queen sitting with the child Hatshepsut in the upper row on a bench among 3 rows of gods and goddesses, some of whom took human forms and some of whom were depicted with animal heads, a crocodile, a jackal, a ram, and the falcon, Horus, in addition to the goddess Taura, meaning the great, who took the form of a female hippopotamus. The queen's seat was placed atop a lion-headed bed, which was placed atop an even larger bed with a lion's head, and upon which sat an assembly of gods and goddesses. The spirits of the cities Pe in the Delta and Nekhen in Upper Egypt, represented as falcon-headed and jackals-headed, respectively, along with the god Bes, the goddess Isis, and her sister Nephthys, are among the most significant deities taking part in this celebration. The goddess Meskenet, depicted sitting on the right, oversaw the holy birth. The deity Amun is then seen seated with the infant in front of the goddess Hathor, who is also sitting, and the goddess Selkut, who is standing, behind her. This is after the goddess Hathor brings the child Hatshepsut to the god Amun. Then, in front of a few goddesses, we witness Queen Amos with her maidservant nursing the infant Hatshepsut standing behind her. Then, on a bed topped with a lion's head, we see 2 figures, each with the head of the cow Hathor, nursing the infant and her soul. 2 cows are seen beneath the bed, providing milk for the 2 infants. The final scene in the northern corner, right, shows the god Iat, the milkman and milk supplier. He is seen with a pot of milk on his head, behind the god Habi, the god of the Nile. The 2 infants are presented before 3 gods dressed in Osirian clothing, and then the god Jehudi gives the 2 infants to the god Amun. The god Num precedes the god Anubis, who is depicted holding a disc on the colonnade's northern wall. In front of them is a group of gods that presents the child and her soul, Ka, to the goddess Shit, who records the period of the 2 children's lives on earth. The god Habi is behind her, which may suggest that he is in charge of providing her food and drink as the great god of the Nile. The Anubis Shrine. The shrine of the god Anubis, whose facade is adorned with an Egyptian cornice, is located to the right of the birth colonnade. There are 12 16-sided columns in total support its ceiling, which are arranged into 3 rows of 4 each. The ceiling is adorned with yellow stars set against a blue backdrop, symbolizing the sky. This shrine's walls stand out for their beautiful, vividly colored scenes, albeit some of them were distorted for family reasons or religious purposes during King Akhenaten's or King Thutmose III's reigns, respectively. The majority of the scenes in this shrine depict Queen Hatshepsut's relationships with several gods and goddesses, including Anubis, Osiris, Nekhbet, and Re-Horakti, as well as Thutmose III's relationship with the deity Sokher, to whom he offers wine. One of the most significant scenes on the western wall of the shrine is on the left-hand side, to the south, where the queen, whose figure has been removed, is depicted offering a massive table full of offerings to the deity Amun. Brightly colored, beautifully depiction of a vulture is above Hatshepsut's head. It shows how precisely the carver inscribed it and how skillfully the painter selected its colors. The queen, whose figure has been removed, is shown making offerings to the shrine's owner, the god Anubis, in the other scene to the north, right side. Above the queen's head we can notice the falcon god Horus of bedecked flying. The western wall has an entrance in the center that leads to a hall that in turn leads to the shrine of the Holy of Holies, both of which have vaulted ceilings. The relationships between Queen Hatshepsut, or Thutmose III, and the several gods and goddesses are depicted in these scenes. The northern colonnade, or mountain supporting wall, is located at the extreme right of the terrace, next to the Anubis shrine. It is preceded by fluted 16-sided columns, or proto-Doric columns. The third level, which has 2 rows of columns, is connected to the second ascending causeway or ramp on the temple's axis. Huge Osirian statues of Queen Hatshepsut adorn the facade of the front columns, while the rear columns were once 16-sided columns that are mostly destroyed. The Osirian statues of Hatshepsut in front of the columns were removed, displaying clearly Thutmose III's revenge. Next, we pass the enormous pink granite stone entryway, adorned with beautiful cartouches with the name of Thutmose III, the king who ordered Hatshepsut's names to be removed. The hypostyle hall, which was encircled by 2 rows of 16-sided columns, is now visible to us. This hypostyle hall's western wall rests on the mountain, and the entrance to the Holy of Holies is located in the center. The Holy of Holies is situated on the temple's axis and consists of a long hall with a domed ceiling that is carved into the mountain's rock. There are 4 niches, 2 on each side leading to the Holy of Holies, which is distinguished by the presence of 2 small chapels, 1 on each side. The Holy of Holies scenes and texts depict Thutmose II, Hatshepsut, and Thutmose III's religious relationship with the god Amun and other deities. A hall with 4 columns arranged in 2 rows was added in front of the Holy of Holies during the Ptolemaic period. Additionally, they probably added the third and last chamber inside the Holy of Holies and decorated it with a variety of scenes, the most significant of which are those to the right and left of the entrance. Amenhotep, son of Habu, the engineer, who lived during King Amenhotep III's reign of the 81th dynasty, is shown on the right. He stands in front of a group of gods and goddesses, while Imhotep, the engineer who lived during King Djoser's reign of the 3rd dynasty, is seen on the left. He comes before a group of deified gods and goddesses. The Ptolemaic period saw both of them deified as gods. It is worth mentioning that there is a huge difference between the art of the Hatshepsut reign and the art of the Ptolemaic period. There are many large and small niches that set the western wall's facade apart. There are 4 large niches on each side, and there are 5 small niches in between. It's probable that there was a big statue of Queen Hatshepsut within each large niche and a smaller or minor figure of the same inside each small niche. Many religious scenes were decorated on this wall. From an entrance on the far east of the northern, right, side of the row of ruined columns, we now reach the shrine of the god Re-Horakhti, the god of Heliopolis. This entry leads to a hall with 3 16-sided columns and a connection to the shrine of the god Re-Horakhti through an entrance in its western wall. The shrine contains a big, high altar in the center, with a 10-step staircase up to the top on its western side. The entrance to the rectangular hall that houses the shrine of the god Amun is located far to the west of the northern, right, side of the row of ruined columns. The relationship between Hatshepsut and Thutmose III and occasionally Thutmose II and the gods of these sacred shrines is depicted in the majority of these scenes. Here, it seems that the image of Hatshepsut was distorted by Thutmose III, while the image of Amun was distorted by the supporters of Akhenaten. Then, we approach the southern, left, shrines from an entrance almost in the center of the southern, left, wall of the row of ruined columns. It starts with a hall leading to Queen Hatshepsut's shrine, which was used for offerings, rituals, and prayers that helped her soul. Next to it, to the north, on the right, is the shrine of her father Thutmose I, which was used for the same purposes. Regarding the other rooms, they were probably used to hold other items needed for the rituals, such tools, garments, oils, and the like. It should be mentioned that here near the 2 temples of Deir El Bahari a number of royal mummies, known as the Deir El Bahari cache, were discovered in July 1881 in the tomb of Lady Inhapi, the owner of tomb number 320. The priests had hidden the mummies for safety and preservation at some point after the year 1100 BC. The Egyptian Museum now has the mummies on display.